What is up, everybody? It's your boy Jay. I'm back at you. We are going to talk some Skull Nation Vikings football right before free agency starts tomorrow morning at 12 o'clock Eastern. That for us in Skull Nation is 11 a.m. And what are the Vikings going to do? What moves could the Vikings make? Rob Brzezinski, the cap wizard's been out there clearing up some cap space for everybody so the Vikings can make some moves. They started out like 45 million in the hole above the salary cap, had to get cap compliant. We had talked about this a lot previously, that there was a lot of moves that they could make and that people were kind of overreacting about what was going to go on with the salary cap, and that the Vikings won't be able to make any moves. They have a ton of salary cap next year. They have a ton of salary cap in 2028. So it was easy to do some restructures, get some guys done. TJ Hawkinson took a pay cut, which is huge. There's a lot of discussion going on about what's going to happen with quarterbacks. What are they going to do with Jonathan Grenard? We're starting to get some more clarity on this. We don't have total answers yet, but we have had some rumors leaked and some information out there. So we're going to get into that. What are the Vikings going to do? What are their best options right now? How do the Vikings move forward in free agency? They have a team that's ready to win now with question marks at quarterback. And when you're ready to win now, that is the worst place to absolutely have any question marks moving into the season. Is what are we going to do at quarterback? Because let's be real, if they had any type of serviceable quarterback last season, they're a playoff team. They only missed the playoffs by a half a game because the Packers had a tie. So you get some decent quarterback play last year. You never know what happens. You're in the playoffs, and once you're in the tournament, anything can happen. So let's talk about some quarterback play that the Vikings could be looking at. We're hearing names like Kyler Murray. We're hearing names like Derek Carr. Sorry, I blanked it right there on Derek Carr. That would be a move I think the Vikings did only if they missed out on everybody else. You're hearing names, Geno Smith. I'm not that excited about Geno. I know some Vikings fans love the idea of Geno. If the Vikings went and got Geno in KOC, I trust. So right away, I'm going to love Geno the second we sign him. But right now, not a fan, not a big idea, not a big fan of bringing in Geno. Don't love the idea. If you think that JJ is still your guy moving forward, then do you bring in a Joe Flacco, a Jimmy G, that kind of guy? That's the question. Everything that I'm hearing, they're not sold on JJ anymore, and they really might be ready to move on from JJ, but they don't want to bury him because, one, it would kill any trade value that they had with JJ McCarthy if they buried him. Two, they're just not the type of organization who is going to bury a player. And three, maybe they do think he just needs to sit another year or two, and maybe they can get something out of him. But all the reports coming out, we're hearing that Kevin O'Connell really had to shrink back the playbook. He had to change a lot of stuff because of JJ not being able to read the defense. They couldn't do anything out of play action because JJ wasn't comfortable turning his back to the defense, turning back around, reading it, and find the open receivers. When the first read wasn't open, there was problems at times. Do not get me wrong. We saw in the second half of the Bears game, JJ play lights out. We saw against Detroit, JJ play lights out. But we haven't seen consistent play from JJ. He has been injured. We do know from Kevin O'Connell that if he wasn't young and it wasn't his first year starting, he could have played through some of these injuries, but they didn't want to put him at a disadvantage. I think also they wanted to see how far they could go with backup quarterback play because JJ wasn't doing great. And they went on a 5-game winning streak at the end of the year. So it just depends what the Minnesota Vikings are looking for. If it's time to move on from JJ, then I'm a firm believer you go make sure Kyler Murray comes to Minnesota. You lock it down with Kyler Murray because either it's a 1-year rental for $1.3 million, and if it doesn't work out, you can just walk away. Or if you have lightning in a bottle like the Sam Darnold years, or if you look, he got the best out of Kirk Cousins, then Kyler comes in, resurrects his career, another reclamation project by KOC, and you sign him because they don't think they'll let the Sam Darnold thing happen again. There's a lot of reasons that happened. Kwesi took the fall for it. I don't know the ins and outs from what happened with Kwesi, but they had that money stuck into other players. So they're like, we have to ride with JJ because we paid everybody else. I get the argument for that, but you have a guy coming off 14 wins, and then you end up looking stupid. So somebody had to go, and it was Kwesi who went, which I don't mind. KOC is a great offensive mind. You want to keep him as your head coach. And Kwesi did a lot of good things in free agency, but the draft, he was horrible. So when you're a GM, you get judged on your draft, right? The Vikings need a big draft. Right now, they have 9 picks. They need to hit a lot of these mid-round picks. They need to start building this team through the draft and make sure that they have a really solid draft. And the problem is Kwesi traded so many picks. They didn't have a ton of draft picks. So when you don't hit on your top couple, then that draft is already a problem because you don't have enough, as Rick Spielman used to say, lottery tickets to try to win the lottery, right? So here we are, Vikings 9 picks moving in. But when it comes to the free agent quarterback, there's another name that I've been hearing, which makes me think because it's not in the mainstream media and it's just trickling through, this might be the guy they're looking at because this is disinformation season, right? And they just freed up a ton of money to go out. I think right now they have like 35, 40 million to go into with, and that's with Grenard. The assumption that Grenard's going to be traded, I think right now they're just waiting to see what the best deal is, and they will hear something and by Wednesday. I would have to think on the Grenard trade because they're going to want that money to move around and go spend and get other guys. But the name I've been hearing quietly is Malik Willis. Now, is this just talk? Is it other people projecting on what they think the Vikings should do? Maybe. But I did hear it from a source that I trust because they're in the news media, just not in Minnesota. But they are in the sports media world, and this is what they heard at the Combine, that there was some whispers that Minnesota is going to be one of these dark horse players for Malik Willis. Is this true? I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about if Minnesota would go after Malik Willis, because what we were hearing at first was Malik Willis was going to garner at least $30 million a year. Now what we're hearing is it could be a 2 to 3 year deal at $20 million. Does that change your mind on bringing in Malik Willis? Are you willing to take that risk and that shot on a huge upside with a guy for $20 million a year? I don't think it's the worst idea. We watched him play for the Packers, and there was times on the show, and I said they would not do this, but if I was the Packers and I was looking at the quarterback play from both guys, it didn't drop off with Malik Willis. And you got a little more athleticism. Would have been in the Packers' best interest to maybe keep Malik Willis and trade Jordan Love, which I would think you get at least a first in a couple seconds, but I think you might have been able to get 2 firsts from a quarterback needy team for Jordan Love. And then with the Micah Parsons contract, you save more money, you get your draft picks back. I don't know. It was just a thought, and it's stuff that we do on the show, fun thoughts that'll never happen, and you throw those ideas out there. But I wouldn't have a problem with the Vikings taking a shot at Malik Willis because I think there's a lot of upside. Now, in all transparency, and you can go back and watch any of the old shows, I was a big fan of Malik Willis coming out of college. I thought you could get him in the 3rd round, develop him, and he could be something. He went to Tennessee, kind of where quarterbacks go to die anyway. But he went to Tennessee. It didn't go well, but there was info with the front office and Vrabel, and we've seen how that turned out. Tennessee looked a little dysfunctional. Now they're looking more adult-like by bringing in Rob Saleh. But there was issues there. So did Malik get brought on and develop the right way? Because then he goes and he's with Matt LaFleur, who's a decent offensive coach, and he seemed to thrive. What could he do with Kevin O'Connell? What could you do with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson on that team? I mean, The offensive line's looking better. I know people are worried about the center. I think Brandel played fine at center last year, and I think that is their plan if they don't land somebody in the draft, because I don't think they're going to spend big money on a center, because these centers are going to get more money than I think the Vikings want to invest, especially after what they invested in Will Fries. It's sad that it didn't work out with Ryan Kelly. He was older, injury bug. But, I mean, they did make moves last year to try to fix this offensive line. But on offensive line, they had so many injuries that the 5 guys who played the most together were Jackson Darisaw, Brian O'Neill, Will Fries, and Brandel at center. They only played together 24.9% of the snaps. So a hair under a quarter of the snaps they played together. That's how much mix matching the Vikings had to do on that offensive line due to injuries. So I think they'll try to find somebody in the draft. I think they'll try to upgrade the team that way. But I don't think they're going to go spend big money in free agency. I don't think you're going to see Tyler Linderbaum coming through the door at 25-ish million a year, even if it's 22, 20 plus million a year. I don't think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see the Vikings do some value shopping, and they do that well. Because if you remember, Van Ginkel, Cashman, and Grenard, all value shopping, but they hit big. They hit big on this value shopping in the free agency. Now they're trying to get out from under Grenard's contract, but it's not because they don't want him. They love him at that $19 million a year, but he's outplayed that. He wants a bigger contract. And right now, where they are with the quarterback issues, with the cap situation, they can't just dole out a whole new contract for Grenard and feel comfortable about that. You have Dallas Turner waiting in the wings. He showed his ass when Grenard was hurt, so we know that he can play. So they'll just have to get more depth, because Brian Flores loves that rotation. Now, guys, I know people are worried about what are they going to do at D tackle. They got Redmond, they got Rodriguez, they got guys that they can play. And it's not the big names. It's not the Hardgraves or the Allens or those type of guys. But in Brian Flores' defense, the D tackles are there to eat up space, not to so much get sacks. And Redmond still ended up with 6 sacks, which is great. But they're there to eat up space. And that's why Hardgrave was upset, and he took the shot at Flores on the way out the door. And we get it. But that's cool that you felt that way. And it's not what Brian Flores' system is about. It's not about taking your big D tackles, your nose tackle, and sending them after the quarterback. It's about eating up space so other guys can get there. So your linebackers, your safeties, your DNs, these guys can get to the quarterback. And I get that that's not what a lot of D tackles are excited about on passing downs. But that's the system, and the system was fucking great. Flores is an amazing defensive mind. And the crazy thing is that you have Harrison Smith, who might come back. I think he's waiting to see what they do with the quarterback position. It's crazy. And I love Hitman. Come back. You can still play. But at this age, I think he's 37. I already thought he'd be tired. I love Harrison Smith. So let's get Harry the Hitman back in the fold. The Vikings need a running back. Everybody's talking about Walker, and I get it. Kenneth Walker, we talked about this before the Super Bowl, and I even said on the show before the Super Bowl in the preview, he was going to be the difference maker. He was going to change the game for Seattle, and he did. And he's not that breakaway guy who's going to bust it for 80, but for some reason, holes are open. He reads them well, and he is gone. He can get you 40 in a heartbeat. He is a really good running back, but I think he's going to get like 15 million a year, maybe 12, right? I don't think the Vikings want to invest that in the running back position, but also there is not a lot of depth in this draft when it comes to running back. Love's going to be gone before the 18th pick. Then you have the other Notre Dame guy, Price. He's going to be a second rounder, but he's going to be gone before the Vikings draft in the second round. And with the needs the Vikings have, do you want to be spending a second round draft pick on a running back? I don't know if that's the case. So what if you go into the draft and you don't address this and then you get nobody? And I like Jordan Mason, but he's horrible at picking up the blitz. He's not good in the pass protection, right? So this is a problem. So then you need a third down back. We know that Chandler's not the answer. We've watched him for the last, 3-4 years. That's not the answer. What do you do at running back? Do you go after a guy like LG or do you go after White? Now, what I think they should do, go after the next best guy after Walker. And I actually would put him above him, but I get why people have him under him. So Travis Etienne. I think Travis Etienne is the best all-around running back in this free agency class, catching the ball out of the backfield. He's gotten a lot better at pass defense. He can pick up the blitz. He's a good runner. We watched that run game with Liam Cohen open up a lot of stuff for Travis Etienne. The Vikings have made a concerted effort to bring in coaches like from Miami in that running game. We saw what they did with Etienne down there. So I think Travis Etienne is the perfect fit for what the Vikings want to do. It gives you another weapon. It really stresses the defense when you have to figure out what to do with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and now Travis Etienne. It really pushes stress on the defense. I think Etienne's going to land somewhere between 8 and 10 million. That's a lot when you don't have a ton of cap space, but you can work these contracts right. And I think it's somewhere you should spend the money because it's only going to help whichever quarterback you have starting. So let's say it's just Kyler Murray. Let's say, because that's the reports. Now you have Kyler Murray, Travis Etienne, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison. That's a lot to put on a defense because now say you go man to man, now you got to turn your back to Kyler Murray. Say you play in the zone, then all these guys can get open and there's always holes in the zone. You can dump off to Etienne. You can get a lot of play action off of that. You can get those RPOs with him and Kyler Murray. I love the idea of Travis Etienne. I think he would be a game changer for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think they should go after him. I know they're going to make some moves. They're going to add a veteran to the cornerback room. They probably need to sign another safety. I'm a firm believer that they are going to draft a corner or a safety at 18, and I think they'll double dip again before the draft's over. I think you'll see at least 2 defensive backs drafted in the first 4 rounds, I would guess, because that's really a need. But I do think that they'll go and pick up a veteran corner. I think they'll pick up another safety. Even if Harrison Smith's coming back, that way you bring Harrison Smith in, you bring in another safety. You got Martellus. You got Theo Jackson, you got Jay Ward. You can let this new guy that you draft high play in spots, develop. You want a guy that can take over for Hitman when he retires, and those are some big shoes to fill. But Brian Flores loves the safety. He loves that jack of all trades, that Swiss Army knife that you hear positionless football now a lot. He loves those safeties like Metellus, like Cam Bynum that can play the nickel. They can be the big nickel. They can play linebacker. They can play the safety spot. It gives you so many options when you have safeties out there that can move around and play different positions. And we saw it with Brian Flores' defense. It makes it very confusing and it stresses the offense. So I think defensive back is huge for them. And I don't think the drop off at pass rush is going to be as much as people think. And that is not to take away from Gennard, but I think Dallas Turner played great. His numbers don't really show how good he was because he didn't get the sacks, but his pressures are really, really high numbers, right? He's always got a lot of great pressures, which soon as you rush that quarterback and get him uncomfortable, it changes the life for everybody on that defense. So I don't want people to underestimate how good Gennard is, and that it sucks to see him go, but he's going to end up being a cap casualty because he outplayed his contract, which is fair. These guys play only for a certain amount of years and they want to get paid. So go make that money. All right, everybody, let me know what you think the Vikings should do. Let me know what you think about the quarterback position. I'm the firm believer. Go get Kyler Murray. Let him compete with JJ, even though it's not really going to be a competition. Kyler's going to come in, be the number one. Let JJ sit and learn. Otherwise, I've heard like different ideas that they trade him off to the Steelers for like a 3rd and a 5th. I don't know. If you're done with JJ, move on. If not, let the kid develop, see what they have. It already sounds like Carson Wentz is coming back. So that's a decent little quarterback room. If you have Kyler Murray, Carson Wentz, JJ McCarthy, and then you figure Max Brosmer, because they really love him, will still be on the practice squad. It's not a bad quarterback room. It's definitely a better quarterback room than they saw last year just by adding Kyler Murray to the mix, right? Because he's got such a unique skill set. And there's already reports coming out that players have been letting Rob Brzezinski and Kevin O'Connell know, like, we want this guy. Now, I heard Jeremy Fowler say that Kyler Murray wants to take some visits. I don't know how much that makes sense to me. Maybe he's going to take visits, but the longer this plays out, that leaves less team happens to be your second guy you want. You can't lose out on your second guy waiting on your first guy. So we'll see how this all plays out. But let me know in the comments what you think about the quarterback situation, what you think the Vikings should do at running back, and how the Vikings should handle the defensive backs that they're going to need. And what do you think about Rob Brzezinski, how he's handling the general manager position right now? Because to me, I think this is the guy who's going to get the job moving forward. He's been with that team since before Leslie Frazier. Yeah, Brad Childress, right? Maybe even before Brad Childress. That's how long he's been there. There used to be a sharing of power, but he's always been the cap guru, the guy who negotiates the contracts. People seem to really love and respect this guy. So I think that they might already have their GM, but they didn't want to go through all the coaching or all the GM search before the draft. So they just said he's going to handle everything and then we'll do the search. And they will. They'll do interviews and search. But I think maybe Rob's already got this job. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you're excited for this free agency season. Also, let me know what you think the Vikings should do in the draft. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe. It feels good. You'll enjoy it. There's 7 shows on the channel. You don't want to miss any of them. One world, one love. Deuce.